50 told me go ahead, switch the style up, and if they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up.
Yo, what's greasing, fellas? We're fucking back with another video. It's been too long, alright? But the War Within's dropping, and now is the time to be a fucking DK, especially a Frost DK, alright, boys? So, since it's a new expansion, I know a lot of people gonna be coming back to the game. Some of y'all might not even know who the fuck I am. So, I'm gonna give you guys a little introduction. I'm a Arena World Championship competitor. I play Frost DK at the highest level, and I got rank 1 every season in Dragonflight, both in 3s and in Solo Shuffle, alright? So, I'm the guy you guys want to be hearing this from, alright? So, check it out. I've got 2 new builds for y'all today, and there's other builds too, but I think these 2 are gonna be the most important builds, okay? So I got one build for dual wield and sustain. I know a lot of you guys have been wanting to see some like Legion Frost DK for a long time, like, you know, just traditional melee cleave, melee class experience. And I got a burst build, some spicy shit, alright guys? Some shit I've been crafting up a lot, you guys know. That's what I fuck with. And I got some secret tech for you guys. You guys gonna be able to one-shot anyone with, alright? Alright, so let's get into this. First off, I'm gonna cover the dual wield build, alright? With this build, you're gonna wanna be playing Rider of the Apocalypse because it's gonna make you really tanky. It's gonna make you do a lot of damage. The fucking horsemen, they're like unholy DK pets, bro. They play the game for you sometimes, or they do massive amounts of damage, alright? So, we're gonna be going for something a little bit tankier here on the left side tree, and I'm gonna hide my overlay and stuff here so you can see what talents I'm taking. So we got Gloom Ward. This is basically gonna help your AMS out. This is gonna Osmosis, also gonna help your AMS out, so it's just useful into everything. This is super cool because we never really had many defensives that are good into physical classes. AMS with this talent is also good into physical classes, alright? We're gonna be skipping out on A-Bomb Limb. A lot of you guys might be surprised by this. The reality of it is, A-Bomb Limb is great when you're trying to do like AoE one-shot setups, but with this build, you're not really gonna be caring too much about cleaving your Obliterates or getting like a Chill Streak out or anything like that. We're not even gonna be playing Chill Streak with this, so A-Bomb Limb is not that big of a deal. We'd much rather opt in to survivability because you're gonna need that shit if you're playing dual wield and you're staying in, right? Skipping out on March of Darkness, we don't really need the Death's Advanced Speed when we have Death Charge. And I'm gonna get into the hero tree and the frost tree in a second. You know, short CD AMS, 2 grip, 40-yard grip. You need 40-yard grip, boys. I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing if you're playing DK and you don't have 40-yard grip. That shit is so good for either of the specs, alright? And I'll stick with that till I'm fucking dead, bro. The AMZ talent, we're not gonna be playing this, but if you really feel like you need it, you can drop Gloom Ward and you can take this, no problem. Anyways, let's get into the Frost Tree. Pretty generic stuff here. The main thing is we're not going to be taking Icebreaker with this build because these 3 talents are very, very important to be able to do a lot of sustained damage, okay? So the thing about Frost DK is we got some big changes this expansion, but if you don't play these sustained talents, you're going to be playing the exact same game just with some new abilities, alright? So you need these 3 talents, and you need at least Avalanche, and you don't need Shattering Blade, but you should take Shattering Blade if you're playing Razor Ice, which you will most likely on one of your weapons. Chill Streak, we're dropping that completely. My opinion on Chill Streak is, and a lot of other Frost DKs feel this way, it's just the damage has not aged well, okay? So what happened is when the expansion dropped and they were in beta and shit, they changed a lot of our damage values. Basically, they just buffed everything, and Chill Streak kind of got left behind. I don't know if they forgot to buff Chill Streak or if it just didn't scale as well, but Chill Streak does not feel that good, and it's cost basically 2 talent points. So we're gonna skip out on that. And Power Rune Weapon, a lot of people sleep on this. They know it's nerfed in PvP, it's only 5% haste. But the thing is, bro, 5% haste is invaluable. It's insane. Okay, you cannot drop 5% haste right now. especially when you consider you're getting 5% from Unholy Ground. You really want this Empower Rune weapon because in the first season of every expansion, you're going to be very low on secondary stats. And that's a big deal for Frost Decay because this is usually not that big of a deal. It usually doesn't happen, but right now, when you do your burst, there's a good chance that you don't have enough runes to actually do your whole burst. And that's the worst case scenario because you're waiting a whole 45 seconds just so you can do some real damage, and then you run out of runes, you can't even press Obliterate, you're sitting there spamming Frost Strikes. It's just no bueno, guys. Alright, so you want Empower Rune Weapon, just pop it with your Pillar every time. You can even macro it in, alright? You can macro this into your Pillar of Frost or your Grip Blind. Not the Grip, if you do it into your Grip Blind, just macro it into your Blinding Sleet. And that's it, alright? So you're going to be getting a lot of Frost Strike damage. Frost Strike is going to be where the most of your damage comes from, and then your Horseman, alright? Rime procs are not going to be that strong here, but they're still good to press because you'll be applying a Razor Eye stack. If you got nothing else to press, and you got a Rime proc, you can just send it. It's all good. Alright, Rider of the Apocalypse. Now, this is kind of a no-brainer, but I don't want to sleep on Deathbringer too much because Deathbringer is still, I mean, obviously it's really good for my other build. I'll get into it soon, but it's not bad for dual wield either. Rider is just pretty crazy, alright? The main thing that I want to cover with Rider is this talent Pact of the Apocalypse is really fucking strong, boys. Like, it's already kind of hard to die as a DK right now, and when you play this talent, you basically solidify yourself as a target that most people really do not want to hit. It's just not worth the stress because this can stack up to 20%. Alright, and you're just going to be getting your Rider just from spending runes, and when you pop your Draco, aka the Frostwyrm's Fury, you're going to get all of them for free. So it's pretty fucking lit, boys. Next you want Death Charge, mainly just because on a Paler Horse doesn't work in Arena, sadly. But Death Charge is fucking sick, okay, boys? I mean, check this shit out. You literally can spam abilities on your horse, bro. You're like a much more swag version than a Ret Pally, bro, and you look a lot cooler too. And you're gonna be doing a lot more damage than a fucking Ret Pally. So giddy up for that. We got White Mane's Famine. All this shit for the most part is just damage damage modifiers, but really important, you got Obliterate damage, and you get some extra Frost Strike damage from these two talents too. That's insane. You can hit some really big Frost Strikes as dual wield, bro, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I've hit some, like, really big Frost Strikes. You'd think I'd be playing a burst build. If you get that crit, it's insane. And it hits twice. Multiple Razor Ice application stack. Very nice, boys. It's pretty simple stuff. Like I said, your Draco is going to summon all 4 of the Horsemen. So usually you want to initiate your burst with some kind of Frostwyrm's Fury, whether it's beforehand or during it. You want to get them out because they're going to make you tankier and they're going to make you do a lot of damage. And they're going to do a lot of damage themselves. And that's really good. So, now that I've covered the talents, I'm going to get into the Runeforges, alright? Now, I'm not actually using a two-handed weapon. I'm not actually using dual wield on this guy. Because this is my burst character, alright? As you can see, he's an orc. He fucking pumps, alright? But let's pretend I'm playing dual wield right now for a sec. So, if I was playing dual wield, I'd pull up over to the Runeforge, you know what I'm saying? And, I'd put on these two guys, alright? First off, you want Razor Ice on your main weapon. Boom, you put that there, you're chilling. And you're going to want Fallen Crusader on your second weapon. And you can honestly, literally just play with those two forever and you'll be perfectly fine. But, if you want to experiment a little bit, you have another choice too. Instead of Razor Ice, you can actually play Stone Skin Gargoyle. And this is pretty good. I played a lot of this on the beta when Deathbringer was still really strong, and it felt insane. But this definitely has a lot more ramp up, but the bonus is that you're going to be getting a lot more tanky because you get extra armor. These all stats by 6%. Don't be fooled, guys. This does not affect your secondary stats. It only affects your primary stats, but that's still pretty good. You're going to get stamina, you're going to get strength, and you're going to get armor. So this is, if you want to opt into a much more ramp up kind of build, or if you just want to be a little tankier, you can run with the Stone Skin Gargoyle. It's not bad, fellas. but I would recommend going Razor Ice Fallen Crusader. That's going to give you the most damage throughput, and it's going to give you the biggest frost strikes, alright? So if you guys like big numbers, we all do. We play Frosty K for a reason, am I right, boys? So play the fucking Razor Ice, alright? Play the Razor Ice, and if you get bored, you can mess around with the Stone Skin Gargoyle. So, now we got Playstyle, because this is a pretty big deal, especially for people that are new to Frosty K. The reason why is because, I don't know if you guys have not been keeping up with Decay, but for basically like the last 2, maybe even 3 expansions, you've had this very similar playstyle where you're just trying to one-shot, very burst-focused, setup-focused playstyle, and some of us love that shit, some of us don't, some of us hate it, and I think it's a pretty big reason why Frosty K has usually been a very underrepresented spec, but in the War Within, we got options, boys. We got options like fucking Jack Harlow in that one song, you know? We got options. So you can choose to play Sustain, and this build is going to be focused on exactly that. So if you guys are looking for a traditional melee class experience, you want to zug people down, bro, you're going to want to play dual wield, and you're going to want to play this build. Basically, the goal here, you're going to be trying to go for as much uptime as possible, right? You're not going to want to get kited, but that's fine if you do because you got the horse, right? So you can get on their ass anyways. You want to pump as much DPS as you can, spend your procs, pump, right? But every 45 seconds, you're going to have Pillar of Frost, and you're going to be able to do a big setup with it. Nothing like the burst build setup. You're not going to be one-shotting kids unless you get lucky crits, right? But it's pretty strong, and it's a nice CC chain, right? It's a stun lock, you know, between Remorseless Winter and your Dragon Stun and your Silence. It's pretty good. So every 45 seconds, you have a nice little kill window on top of your pressure that you already have, right? So in terms of the actual rotation, I'm going to get into the specifics here, but basically, Obliterate is your filler. This is where you're going to be pressing when you can't press anything else. So let's say you look at my bars right now. What can you press? You can press Frost Strike. You can't. You can't press Howling Blast because it's not proc. You can, but you don't want to unless you're just going to apply the Frost Fever, because this doesn't do that much damage. Like, I mean, I know it says millions here, but these are low-level targets. Howling Blast and no proc is like a wasted global unless you're doing it just to apply the Frost Fever, which is not bad sometimes, but you don't gotta press it that often for that. So if you can't press Frost Strike and you don't have a Howling Blast proc, you press Obliterate, right? And that's gonna give you runic power, so now you can press Frost Strike. Now you can spam it, and if you get lucky and you press Obliterate, you might get that Howling Blast proc. This does some decent damage. Now with this build, it's nothing crazy, but you know, it's worth the global. So, as you see, we proc the Horseman. Pretty nice shit. They do big damn. And then, right, so you're going to Obliterate to generate runic power or to generate a Howling Blast proc. And then once you generate it, you're going to spend it. Frost Strike's going to be your heavy hitter in this build. And it's a pretty simple rotation. You really don't want to press Remorseless Winter for damage, guys. Don't get confused. I know it looks like it does big damage. It doesn't really do that much damage, but it's great for setup. So, right, that's the general outside of burst rotation. When you have your pillar up, things are going to change a little bit. So Obliterate goes from being your filler, and it goes to being your other heavy hitter, because now you have Frost Strike and Obliterate that do big damage. And so the way you want to do it is when your pillar is active, so check this out. Pop my pillar, my Frost Strikes give me guaranteed Obliterate procs. And these just make you do big damage with Obliterate. So during your burst, you just want to alternate between Frost Strike and Obliterate. Frost Strike, Obliterate. You can press Howling Blast too. It'll also give you an Obliterate proc. The goal here is to generate Obliterate procs, alright? And during your Pillar of Frost, everything's going to do big damage, okay? And so, every 45 seconds, you're going to have your Pillar of Frost, you're going to have Remorseless Winter, and your Strangulate together, alright? You don't want to use them unless they're together, and you're going to be wanting to look for a stun combo setup every 45 seconds with these 3 spells, okay? And then after you get them off, you can initiate your burst with your Pillar of Frost, alright? And on these goes, you can also include your Blinding Sleet or your Frostwyrm's Fury to help get the setup, alright? I'm going to go a little bit more in-depth in the burst rotation on the next build I'm going to cover in a little bit here, but it's not as important with this build because this build actually has sustained damage, which is great. The other build is very burst focused, so it's all about the one shot, it's all about the setup. So I'll go more in depth in that, so stay tuned for that. Now, I'm about to actually cover that right now. So for the two-hand burst build, you know, you see I got a two-hand weapon on right here. This is what I special in, boys, all right? This is what I specialize in. First thing you may notice, boom, we got Deathbringer up there, bro. Deathbringer, so many people have been sleeping on it, bro. So many people sleeping on Deathbringer. They don't know the sauce, guys, but now you guys will, all right? So check this shit out. Second thing you may notice is Breath of Sindragosa. A lot of people hate this talent, and I even used to as well. So there's a lot of love, hate. You know, you bring Breath of Sindragosa up, bro, you get some mixed reactions, right? But I'm here with some good news. It's not the same, all right? We're gonna be playing it, and I know people might be like, bro, Breath in PvP, man, that shit sounds like a gimmick, bro. It's a one-shot. Trust me, guys, it is good, and it's different. I'm gonna explain right here, all right? So before I get into Breath of Sindragosa, I need to basically explain what Reaper's Mark does, all right? Reaper's Mark does a lot of shit, guys, all right? But the main thing it does, it one-shots. And when you apply Reaper's Mark, it's going to apply a debuff. Every time you do frost damage or shadow frost damage, it's going to stack it up. The goal here is to get it to 40 stacks. As you can see, it can take a second. All right? I got to 35 stacks. What does it do? When it hits 40 stacks or it expires, it's going to do a fuckload of damage. It's going to hit for like a mil at least every time, and it's usually going to do even more, okay? After it explodes, it might cleave onto another person and re-proc upon itself. But even if it doesn't, that's okay, because after it explodes, you also get a buff. Your next Obliterate does this shit, bro. Check this shit out. Boom. That scythe, bro, you see that? Isn't that sick as fuck? I'll show it on this guy, too. Look at that shit, bro. Choppy, bro. It fucking hits hard. Does a lot of damage, and it looks sick. Now, the goal here, when you pop your Reaper's Mark, you want to get to 40 stacks as soon as possible, all right? And that's where Breath of Sindragosa comes into play. So, normally it doesn't do this, but when you play this talent here, Dark Talons, it will do something very crazy, all right? So it's going to convert your Breath of Sindragosa damage into Shadow Frost damage. That normally wouldn't matter, but that's a pretty big fucking deal because Reaper's Mark stacks even more to Shadow Frost damage. The stacks double, okay? And as you guys know, Breath of Sindragosa already ticks a lot. It ticks very fast every second, and every second you're going to be getting at least one stack of Shadow Frost damage just from your Breath of Sindragosa by itself, okay? And so when you factor in Remorseless Winter, your actual burst rotation, you can stack this thing up to 40 stacks in like 2 seconds, all right? And I'll even display it right now. Check this shit out. I got Breath here. I'm gonna do my setup. Now watch the debuff. I just popped it. Look at that. In like 2 seconds, it reached 40 stacks, bro. And look at all this damage. Now I got the sights coming out. I got the exterminate popping, bro. It's so much fucking damage, you have no idea. Now, you don't have to actually keep your Breath of Sindragosa up, okay? Because a lot of people generally, in PvE, when you pop your Breath of Sindragosa, the goal is to keep it up for as long as possible. We're not doing that here, all right? We're literally only using Breath for like 2 seconds, maybe 3 or 4, so that we can get the Reaper's Mark to pop really fast. So if you can keep it up, that's great, but don't go out of your way pressing wrong burst globals just so you can get it to fucking stay up, okay? Because it's not going to be worth it. It's a lot more worth it if you get extra Obliterate procs during your Pillar of Frost. And anyways, I'm gonna try and get into the stats here now, okay? So for this build, you're gonna be wanting to run a lot of haste, okay? Because this build revolves a lot around burst. Burst synergizes greatly with haste, and you want mastery too. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna try and get as much haste as possible so you don't run out of runes during your burst, and so you can get your burst off faster and it feels less clunky, which is great. Nobody likes playing a DK without haste. Even Unholy DKs, they know it feels like shit. You don't like crit. Crit is pretty useless. And versatility, you can see I don't have that much verse, but it's not that big of a deal. We're pretty tanky, and you got really good kiting, okay? So versatility, it's still better than crit, but it's worse than haste and mastery, okay? And you will see as well, when the season actually drops and we have crafted gear, you can even opt in to dropping versatility for some extra mastery or haste, okay? And now I'm gonna go back to the talents a little bit because I gave you guys a little preview. Got a little carried away, started talking about the breath of Sindragosa and shit. But the main differences with this build is gonna be, well, obviously they're gonna have breath over here, but you're also gonna have A-bomb limb, okay? And as for the short AMZ, you can drop this for March of Darkness. I really like this talent. I think it's fun as fuck. You see your character starts running really quick and shit. You know, it honestly makes you feel like you're running a lot faster than you really are. But it's good, you know? And if you don't want the movement speed, you can take Brittle. But besides that, you're going to be playing the same thing every time. You're going to put your last point into this, or this, alright? I'm going to keep it in AMZ for now. I'm going to uncover my camera so you can see it. Alright, there you go. Pretty generic stuff. No magic is very important. Everything is just very basic Decay stuff here. Now we're going to get into the actual frost tree. And over here, we're not going for Shattering Blade. I would if I could, but you don't have the talent points to do that, unfortunately. So instead, we go down to Breath, and the build path for Breath is actually really good because you're going to be getting Howling Blast damage. In this build, your Howling Blast procs are a lot more potent than the other build, okay? So I'll talk more about it during the rotation section, but basically you value your Howling Blast and your procs a lot more this build. And Hyper Pyrexia is pretty sick. It's just gonna give you like some extra pad damage, and if you hit like a really big Frost Strike, you're gonna get a pretty nasty dot on him, alright? Besides that, same shit. You kind of usually don't really switch around too many things when it comes to the Frost Decay builds and the spec tree. You're either going for the crit talents here, or you're going for Shattering Blade, or you're going for Breath. And if you're a bozo and you haven't caught the memo yet, you're going to be going for Chill Streak, okay? Listen, boys, I love Chill Streak, but it's not good anymore, right? It's time to get with the times. We got Reaper's Mark. We don't need that shit no more. Now, speaking of Reaper's Mark, let's talk about the hero talents. These are pretty cool. You got Rune Carved Platings. It's going to make you tanky. You don't even have to play around this. While you're doing damage and shit, you're just going to take less damage, which is dope. This right here. So I want to talk about these two talents for a second specifically because usually you're going to play Painful Death, but I don't want to count out Swift End because we have Ice Cap now, and so we don't need to do goes every minute anymore, okay? But that doesn't mean minute goes are bad, okay? So if minute goes are your thing, or you're coming up with a comp and you think doing goes every minute is better, then you can play Swift End, right? And what you can do is, every minute you do a Grip Blind setup with all your burst and your teammates are going to burst with you. And then 30 seconds later, when your Remorseless Winter comes back off cooldown, you can do a mini go while your pillar's still on CD. And you can pop your Reaper's Mark again because it'll be a 30-second cooldown. But you don't really have to do that with the mainstream build because you can just do full goes every 45 seconds, right? So it's about, what do you prefer? Huge goes every 45 seconds or a huge go every minute, but you got a small go every 30, right? And I think for now, just go with the Ice Cap, huge 45-second goes. You won't have a bad time with this at all. Trust me, the burst is insane every 45 seconds. It's 100% worth it. And you get this here too, right? Dark Talent, I talked about it too. The main thing is the second part of this talent. It's going to let you have a crazy interaction with Breath. But the first part is nice too. Getting extra Icy Talent stacks. Hell yeah, bro. I mean, you need Icy Talents for this talent to even work. But it also can help you get some extra procs outside of your burst. Okay. Now, Runeforge, very, very straightforward here for the two-hand build with the burst. you're only going to be playing Fallen Crusader, right? If you want to run away completely after your go, which is you can do that. I would advise playing Razor Eyes for that, but 90% of the time, just play Fallen Crusader with this build. It's good. If you get a proc during your burst, bro, it's insane. All right. Now, the rotation. So the general rotation is pretty similar to the other build. It's very basic stuff, except what you're going to be seeing with this build is, let's say your Pillar of Frost on cooldown. Okay, I'm just going to pop everything just so we can pretend that I don't have any CDs, all right, boys? And boom, I got nothing now, right? So what are you going to want to do? Outside of your burst, you're just going to spam Obliterate. Just literally spam it. The goal here is to get a Rime proc, okay? I'm having some pretty bad fucking luck right now, boys, and this isn't the only time that's happening. Boom, got a Rime proc. You want to spend this so you can get a Razor Eye stack on your target. If you can put this on the healer outside of your go, it's super good because it's going to make your next burst window fucking insane if you can get it to 5 stacks. So watch, I'm going to try and get more. Boom, I got another Rime proc. See, 2 stacks. That's 7% increased frost damage, bro. If I get to 5, that's 18%. So you have like a little mini game you're playing while you're waiting for your next burst window. You're just trying to stack this up to 5. And if you let it fall, bro, it's going to feel like shit, okay? Got 3 stacks, 4 stacks, and we got it to 5. Okay, that's huge. So now, let's say I do my setup, right? I pop the go. Now I let it rip, bro, and I've got full stacks on my go, bro. You're going to hit so fucking hard. It's insane. All right, so that's the regular rotation. But to be honest, boys, that's not really what this build is about. Honestly, it's a lot more important to know how to do your one-shot than it is to know how to do your Frost Decay rotation if you're playing this build, all right? And so I'm going to get into that right now. All right, so this, some advanced shit, okay? And it's going to be kind of sketchy at first. If you've never played it before, it's going to seem like a lot. But it's really not that hard because it's going to be the same thing every time. So it just comes down to practice, all right? So I'm going to take a deep breath on this one before I get into it. And because it's a lot, all right? All right, here we go for the burst rotation, boys. First of all, you're going to start off with a pre-Chains of Ice on your kill target. Then you're going to want to grip another player to the burst. Let's pretend it's the healer. You grip them. Blinding Sleet everybody. Death and Decay. Remorseless Winter. Frostwyrm's Fury. And you're going to pop Pillar of Frost and Reaper's Mark and Breath at the same time. And then you're going to Howling Blast. Obliterate. You're going to Howling Blast or Frost Strike, depending if you have a proc or not. Obliterate, Frost Strike, or Howling Blast. Obliterate, Frost Strike, or Howling Blast. And the Frost Strike and Howling Blast are obviously going to be giving you Obliterate procs. There's a lot going on there. It's really fast where that's all going down. The main thing is you're going to be alternating between Frost Strike and Obliterate for your Obliterate, or Frost Strike and Howling Blast for generating Obliterate procs. And that's going to vary whether you get a proc for your Howling Blast or not, okay? So if you get a Howling Blast proc after your Obliterate, then it's way better to pop Howling Blast instead, but you can Frost Strike as well, okay? Like I said, there's a lot to take in on that one, but all it takes is some repetition to get the muscle memory down. So what I would do, I would just in between cues, go to a target dummy, spam the fucking burst rotation over and over just to get it in your head, okay? And like I said, it's not as hard as it seems because you're going to be doing the same thing almost every time on your burst, okay? It's literally like the same thing. And another thing too, you want to strangulate at the end of the stun, okay? So there's an extra layer here, but while that's all going on, your stun combo is going to be stunning the enemy players. And so obviously you want to follow it up with a silence just to combo the CC chain, so it's even longer, right? But anyways, I'll write that down below so you can copy paste it. In my opinion, it's a lot easier to understand when you're reading it because it just happens way too fast for you to really pick up on everything that's happening when you watch the burst rotation, okay? Trust me, it's not as hard as it seems. Even if you fuck it up a little bit, it'll still do a lot of damage, okay? And you got a lot of buttons over here that are off global. So what I would recommend, I'm going to get into the macros in a little bit, but what I would do, I would macro Reaper's Mark and Breath of Sindragosa together if you're getting started and you don't have a lot of keybinds. This will be very easy to get used to. So on your Reaper's Mark button, just put in Breath of Sindragosa as well, so that when you press Reaper's Mark, your breath goes off as well. Here's another idea. Because we have Empower Rune Weapon, you can also macro in Empower Rune Weapon into your Blinding Sleet, okay? I think it's better than macroing it into your Pillar, because when you pop your Blinding Sleet, there's a couple globals that you spend doing this. You know, you pop Blind, Death and Decay, Remorseless Winter, and then you Dragon, right? So having Empower Rune Weapon giving you more haste for those like 3 or so globals, it's really good. And I'll get into the macros. I'll link them to you down below so you guys can just copy paste them in. But trust me guys, it's not as complicated as it seems, and it's worth it because the one shot is insane. I'm gonna try and find some clips of the one shots I've done with Reaper's Mark so you guys can really see. For the playstyle, for the two-hand build, right? The goal as a two-hand Frost Decay is to do perfect burst and CC setups every 45 or 60 seconds on multiple targets, okay? Preferably with the help of your team, if you have that luxury, so you can stun lock them and one-shot the enemy healer in place with a ton of AoE damage. It's very important to save your Pillar Frost, your Strang, your Remorseless Winter, so you can send it all at the same time. Especially Blinding Sleet and Frostwyrm's Fury as well, because you can combo it literally all together, and you make it very hard for the enemy to like really do anything about it, you know? If they're in a stun lock, it's a 3-second stun into a 2-second restun. They can't do shit, bro. And then on top of it, they get silenced if they trinket it, or if you hit them with it right after it. All that's going on, there's a ton of burst damage coming in. As you saw, the Reaper's Mark pops so fast when you have breath, okay? And when you don't have breath, it just does a fuck ton of damage anyways, okay? But breath speeds it up. That's gonna be your big nuke, okay? Every 2 minutes, you have a huge go, and every 45 seconds, you got a good go. You know, you got a pretty strong go, but with breath, it's insane, all right? Now, for the comps, I'm aware that there's 2 playstyles here for Frost Decay, right? But the comps are very similar. Honestly, any comp you can play as dual wield, you can play as two-hander as well, okay? But some comps are better with each playstyle. So, for example, I think the best comps, I'm gonna list them off right now, okay? We got Sustain TSG with a Fury Warrior. You can play that with dual wield, right? Sustain damage. You have Burst TSG with an Arms Warrior. sustained PH Decay with an MM Hunter. You can even play that as a burst playstyle too with an MM Hunter, so you can play two-hand PH Decay as well. You can play burst Draco Cleave with a Dev Evoker, your two-hand weapon build. You can play burst Walking Dead with a Windwalker Monk, and you can play sustained Hero Cleave with a DH. You play any of these comps, they're going to be top tier, okay? No matter how you're playing them. You can even mix up the play styles. They'll all be really good. You can also play the Shadow Priest, and that would work too, but you need a good Shadow Priest for that. Someone who knows how to play around a Frost Decay. So you got a lot of options. In the past, it was usually only had like a couple comps, but all of these top tier comps, you can get really far with them, okay? And for the racials, this is like usually like the racials that are good in PvP. It's not really class specific, right? Usually, you know, if you play a priest, oh, it's good to be night elf. If you play a warrior, it's not bad to be night elf either. You know, obviously like gnome and shit, but with Frost Decay, it's very different. So the number one race for Frost Decay, in my opinion, would be the Panda. Okay, I know it sounds troll, but Panda is fucking legit, boys. You get the racial, the Quaking Palm. It is so helpful for setting up a clean grip blind setup because you can pre-Panda incap the target, and while they're incapped, they can't blink away, they can't pre-wall the setup, they can't roll, they can't port, they can't do shit. So as long as you don't break that Panda incap for 4 seconds, there is not shit that they can do, and it gives you all the time to lock them down in place and grip someone else to that target that's in the incap, okay? It's also nice because Panda gives you the versatility food racial, which is not bad. So you can buy that at Ashran, and you can get a nice little 1% verse. You know, it's not bad. Mainly you're playing Panda for the food, for the racial though, for the actual incap. Then you have Orc. Orc, as you see, I'm an Orc on this guy. This is my shuffle character, and you're gonna be getting Blood Fury. Really good for Frost Decay. Like, you pair this up on your Breath of Sindragosa go, it's a fuck ton of damage, right? And you get hardiness, so stuns last less on you. They're shorter, and that's just good because you don't want to get CC'd on your burst, right? And the likelihood of you not having IBF and you get stunned can be pretty high sometimes, right? So if you do get stunned on your go and you don't have Trinket or IBF, boom, it's like half a second shorter. It's pretty nice. And next, Void Elf. People don't really see this coming, but Void Elf's actually really good for Frost Decay. And there's a special little interaction, kind of cheese, but it's pretty legit. And it's specifically for Deathbringer, okay? The Void Elf racial, it has a proc. Because it has a couple racials passives, but one of the racial passives, whenever you have like a chance whenever you're doing damage to proc and turn into like a shadow form kind of Void Elf or some bullshit, but it gives you 5% damage. But what's really important to note is it makes your damage convert into Shadow Frost damage while you have that buff up. So if you have Reaper's Mark on a target and that shit procs, you're gonna stack your Reaper's Mark even faster because all of your damage converts into Shadow Frost damage. And that's a pretty big deal because your Remorseless Winter doesn't do Shadow Frost damage. So you'd be getting like 2 stacks a second just from your Remorseless Winter alone on top of everything else. So then you also have the actual port from the racial, right? Void Elf can port across the map. It's pretty cool. You can do some clean plays with it. You know, you port over there, bro, and then you grip the healer in or some shit. I don't know. It's fun, though. Then you got Dark Iron Dwarf. It's good for every class, bro. You know, you're playing against a Feral. You're playing against a Rogue. Boom. You get all their bleeds off. You're chilling. And then there's Human. Human, I'd say, is like the last good race for Frost Decay in terms of like actual useful racials because you just get more stats. You get a fuck ton of secondary stats. And Frost Decays are very stat dependent. Like, honestly, I think Frost Decays are going to get a lot better as the expansion goes on, just because we'll have more stats to choose from, and we won't be stuck, like, with these very few stats here. And, I don't know if I covered it yet, but for two-hand Frost, you're going to want to get as much haste as possible, right? So something like Human is going to be very useful. Because you get haste, mastery, and verse, and crit. Boom. And, You could play Night Elf too. I don't think Night Elf's that good for Frost Decay, but you can do it. They look cool, right? So it is what it is, and you got Shadow Meld, right? It's always nice in PvP. And yeah, now it's time for the macros, boys. So this one is a macro I've been using for a very long time. It's the anti-magic zone at your cursor macro. So check it out. Normally, like let's say look at my Death and Decay. I click my Death and Decay and I got a target on the floor, click it again. That's a lot of time wasted when you have a cast at cursor macro for your zone. You just press it and it goes to your mouse. Boom, super useful. I'll put that down below so you guys can just copy paste it. Now, I'm gonna show you the Reaper's Mark macro too. Because right now I currently just pressed the Breath of Sindragosa myself, but this is what you would do. You would press cast Reaper's Mark, and you'd also put in cast Breath of Sindragosa. And so what happens this way, whenever you press your Reaper's Mark, the breath will go off at the same time, so you don't even have to worry about it. Now, if I were you, I would still keep breath somewhere on your bars where you can see it, just so that you know when you're gonna have breath, so it's not like a complete surprise. You can prepare for it. So I'd macro that in. I'll link this one down below as well. And this one, I do use myself now. I used to always manually press Empower Rune Weapon, but I don't think it's needed anymore because you just have more important shit to worry about with breath, right? So with the Blinding Sleet macro, this one, it puts Empower Rune Weapon before you're blind. So whenever you do a setup, you're always going to be initiating your setup with Blinding Sleet. You almost never want to use Blinding Sleet defensively as Frost Decay. So whenever you press Blinding Sleet, it's going to give you that extra haste, extra runes, boom. You don't even got to think about it. Honestly, you don't even have to put this one on your bars. It just looks cool. It's got a cool icon, and it's nice to know, right? But if you don't have room on your bars, then don't even worry about it. But breath, keep that on your bars, even if you're having a macro press it for you. Anyways, boys, that's pretty much it. There are other macros, like there are the Death Grip, Focus Death Grip macro, Focus Kick, but that's very, very generic stuff, right? You don't really gotta worry about it. I guess there's the Lichborn macro, where like you press Death Coil on yourself. It's really not that important though. So I guess I'll link this one down below too. So while Lichborn is active, you press this, your Death Coil is gonna heal yourself. Pretty nice. Oh, actually, no. There are your AMS PvP talent macros. So if you play Spell Warden, this is pretty important. You can put AMS on your allies. So instead of having to click it on your ally themselves, I use a macro that makes it go on my party 1 and my party 2. And so check this out. So this is my DPS macro. So I use an add-on called Frame Sort. Okay, I'll also link that down below too. Frame Sort, you can basically arrange how your frames line up every time. And so it's the same every time, so you can get used to it. So you can say, okay, the Decay always on the bottom, healer always on the top, right? And so with that in mind, you can make a macro that goes with it. And so this would be the DPS macro. So let's say you make the healer as a top frame every time and yourself as the lowest frame. Your DPS partner will always be the middle frame. And so this is the AMS that goes on your DPS partner. And this is the AMS that goes on your healer partner. I'll link that down below. Very good add-on to have. These macros are nice to have, but they're really not that important, guys. You're not even, most of the time you're gonna be using Anti-Magic Shell on yourself for your burst, but this can win you the game sometimes. If you get like a really lucky AMS on your healer and it eats a Hajj or a sheep or something, it's really good, but don't stress about it too much. If you're at a very high level on Frost Decay and you're like, fuck it, I got extra keybinds, I don't care, I want it, boom. You can use those. I'll link them down below anyways. But as always, you know what I'm saying? Sub to the fucking channel, guys. Like the video, comment down below if you enjoyed. I'm trying to come back with more and more videos as this expansion goes on, because I was sleeping on a little bit in Dragonfly. But you know, we were a little busy, boys, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, catch my Twitch stream at twitch.tv frostgodsgeek. That's where I'm usually at. That's usually where the YouTube neglect comes from. So I'm sorry, boys, but if you guys like watching the streams, go there, watch it. That's where you can find me. And as always, fellas, I will grease y'all later. Peace.